thank you all for coming. If we could just get a round of applause for you guys out there. If we have a little bit of time, if there's interest, we might do a quick Q&A, maybe 2-3 questions from the audience. And yeah, after that, we'll get back to the networking, which is the biggest part of tonight. Making sure everyone in this room has a chance to talk to each other, business cards are exchanged, deals get done, and we all move forward together. So without further ado, I think I'll just do a quick round of introductions. I'll just state your name, and you guys can give a quick introduction of yourself. If you want to, we have one mic for all of them to share. Yeah, pass it over here first. Yeah. So first we have Lilian and Chen. You want to say a few words about yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Lilian Chen. I'm the founder of Proptimal. So my background is a real estate analyst, and I try to offer my service to as many people as possible, but very quickly realize how difficult it is to find a good analyst and how much people just hate struggling with Excel formulas and spreadsheet. So right now at Proptimal, we are building a financial modeling software that allows anyone to build custom, accurate financial models without writing a single formula. And our vision in the future is hopefully we can make AI tools more accessible to the developers, real estate operators, brokers across the entire country.
Next, we have Kristen Fortino.
Very efficient. Kristen Fortino, I'm the VP of Business and Investment Strategy at Metropolis Group, which is our family business. We are building code and zone consultants, so everything from your zoning analysis and code compliance reviews through your filing strategy, understanding the violations and open apps on your building or your acquisition that you're going to be looking at, through ultimately getting everybody their CFO. So that's what we do. We work very heavily with Relm. They are actually integrated into our business, which is fantastic, and working closely with these guys to understand that our book of business is developers, architects, brokers, property managers, anyone really who owns or touches real estate in some capacity. And the beautiful thing about what we're doing here is we are a consulting company that's been around for 40 plus years in Manhattan, but we're now integrating AI into our business and for our clients, not only for efficiency, but for accuracy and having them be first at the table for their deals.
Next, we have Evan Robinson.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Evan Robinson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Relm. So Relm is essentially an AI diligence firm. What we specialize in is finding the hair on the building. If there's a needle in the haystack, that's going to basically throw a wrench into a deal or that exists in your current portfolio, we will find that and surface it. And we've gotten people out of many bad situations, as well as helped them into finding some great ones as well. So obviously, Kristen kind of hinted at a little bit of our partnership and what we work on with them. Metropolis has the amazing government relations and 40 years worth of expediting and permitting and violations. So we're able to work together. We find the stuff, they remedy the problems, and it's beautiful. So that's Relm.
Cool. Next, we have Maxime de Scheemaeker. Did I say that correctly?
I'm impressed you tried my last name. So, my name is Max. I'm the CEO at Juunoo, and we are not an AI startup. We're a physical product. We build out spaces in a flexible way. So our goal is, all those companies grow fast, that space can evolve together with them. So that's also going to be interesting for today. We're going to give a different look on AI, and because we're in the physical space compared to our fellow members here.
Yeah. And I would just like to make a quick shout out to Juunoo for providing the space. This is their showroom and office. Their poor team had to sacrifice their desks, which are usually right here. So you can thank them very much for the beautiful space. And Metropolis also for providing the food and beverage for this evening. So thank you guys. You got some golf claps for the beer and wine. That'll work. Cool. If you can pass the mic to Evan. This feels a little bit like a conflict of interest, considering Evan and I are co-founders. So get to tee him up with the first question. But that's why I'm the moderator. So I have one question for every panelist here. We all work across different spaces in the industry. After Evan answers, if the rest of you have anything to chime in, please feel free to. But Evan, so the reports that Relm generates for clients are built on a common core of property data. but are still customizable enough to serve a variety of use cases, like around the building, finding good deals, whatever it may be. This gives you a vantage point to see the difference between how people talk about AI in commercial real estate versus how it actually gets used in live deals. What do you think the difference between how people talk about it and how it's actually being used is?
So real quick, despite me begging Jack to see the question that he was going to ask me, he refused to give it to me. So no, but in terms of how I think, when we first started Relm and what people were saying about AI, where they thought it was going to go, obviously I think everybody's mind goes towards job replacement, automation of roles, things of that nature. And the reality of the situation is you still need the good people in the room to be able to interpret everything that's going on. And that's really where, when we're working on a deal or we're working on basically diligence in something, an asset, whether it's from an oil refinery down to a vacant lot out in the Bronx, we're able to, essentially where AI is going to win on the deal side is being able to take a vast amount of data that's very noisy, very all over the place from disparate sources, whether it's input from the actual clients themselves through government sites, government data, which is a hectic thing to navigate, and be able to basically pinpoint the exact thing that's either going to make or break a deal. And that's how we've largely been seeing AI on the commercial real estate side actually influence and been implemented in day-to-day operations rather than pure, hey, we're going to replace this analyst role. It's been more, hey, we're going to basically make this team smarter, and the best people on this team are going to make the better decisions and get to the deal table quicker than anybody else.
Cool. I think everyone just kind of seconds that. I don't know if there's any debate there. That's good. So I think we'll just kind of go around the horn here. If you can pass it over to Lilian. So Lilian, this is kind of a good extension because Relm and Proptimal work in very adjacent spaces, which is why we've had a good working relationship thus far. But your work at Proptimal is essentially taking, and correct me if I'm wrong describing any of this, but it's essentially taking the capability that used to require a dedicated analyst or a team for like a big firm or something, and putting it into anyone's hands. What does that actually change about who can compete in commercial real estate? Does it make smaller firms more competitive, or does it just kind of raise the floor for everyone, or we're all competing at the same increments, but just at a bigger scale?
Yeah, that's a really good question and something that I think a lot about, right? The way that I think about it is it's not technology's job to solve structural issues. So you have the small firms, and small firms are going to deal their specific deal. They're going to do their specific deals, and then you have the large firms that play in the institutional arena. So for the most part, they're already in their own niche, and technology's job is not to get these small firms to be able to compete with billion-dollar companies, right? That's not what technology does. Now, what technology can do is how do you bring out the best version of every single company, regardless of their size? So how do we do that, right? So if you actually look at the commercial real estate landscape across the entire country, not just in New York, not just in California, the average developer across the nation is some mom and pop shop in Wisconsin, right? They don't even have an analyst, and they don't even know how to prompt. They don't know anything about AI. They're probably just getting onto GPT just now. So all of these AI softwares, they need to be able to offer concrete value to these people, right? So if you think about AI, all that it does is it's a leverage of whatever system you already have. I can't, as a technology person, make you suddenly magically good at your job, right? That's not what we do. So if you look at the different ways of AI, there's different functions, different pitches that they're pitching to people. The first wave, all about speed, right? Speed, efficiency, you're gonna buy your time back. And back in the days, I would look at AI as a little bit of an entry-level employee where you have a specific workflow and all that it does is speed it up, right? And back in the days, that used to be a competitive advantage because the person who can get the most done the most quickly was so rare in the past, but then now anyone can have speed. So now you need something else on top of that. So that's where I think some of the best founders I've come across, including Relm, they did not pay me to say this, is now you need to have technology that that doesn't just follow instructions, but they need to have some kind of domain knowledge, right? Because you can't just go to GPT and expect it to know real estate. That's one of the biggest complaints. So how do you do that? Is you have to train on real world cases. You have to interview real estate practitioners and then take all this knowledge in their head and put it on top of the AI. So you need both AI and data, right? So that's the second wave that we're in now. And all the first wave, there's a lot of, these AI hype GPT wrapper startups, they died, right? So now we're in the second wave now. And I think where we're going in the future to bring out the best of every company is now we have an organizational layer where we have experience, right? How do you train an AI to know exactly how your organization likes to do things, what type of investment criteria you value, and then have it reinforce and train on itself. So that's where we're headed.
That's awesome. If I might be able to hop in there, Kristen, if you have something to say.
Gonna kick it over
Oh,
to
cool.
Max, so you have to
Max,
Yeah.
let's on Max intro real quick.
You did.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, my bad. You can tell the coffee hasn't quite kicked in yet. But no, in terms of, no, I totally agree what you're saying. There's a couple of things that comes true when particularly thinking about the second wave of AI. Number one for me, it's data freshness and being able to access what exactly is going on at that moment of time, right? If a new violation, new permit gets booked up, or you're working on old data sets that was, I don't know, last year, that's not going to come through, and that's going to be a big problem, even from an underwriting perspective, through a diligence perspective. So so that's a big challenge that, particularly working with government sites that tend to have really good blocking systems, being able to get through and get there. That's a key edge. Now, in terms of the human in the loop on a lot of this stuff, where it's combining this great technology with the experts in the room, is where I think you're going to start seeing most of that innovation. So with that, the way I take that when I listen to, the AI big companies out there that basically are viewing themselves as a utility company, which I largely agree with that thesis. But the way I view that is the innovation isn't going to happen in some standalone software company anymore. I believe that the innovation is actually going to come from the more traditional side businesses that start adopting it, or new service type of businesses or traditional style businesses that make that as the framework. So you can imagine a million different ways of this happening. We're taking it from a diligence perspective. That's normally a process that takes weeks and months and costs $50,000+ per project. But you can think about it from an insurance perspective. If you're insuring your job sites and all that stuff, you can automate most of the underwriting, where you would otherwise have a lot of actuary, have one senior actuary there, basically double checking all the math and be able to go from that perspective. So I think that's where a lot of the innovation, a lot of big pushes going into the future is going to come from in the second and maybe even going to a third wave of AI there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback on that too, because so on the flip side of it, right? My background is from the traditional consulting business, right? And we're now implementing the AI piece with this second wave, and Alan and I and Jackson all kind of see the same, see the writing on the wall of where the future is going to be. In terms of in my family business, my dad's the CEO. I'm the VP of this business and investment little area here. My brother's the COO, and then my brother-in-law is there too. So we got like the whole thing. We all have our own lane now. We all have our own lane. And the reason I came in was because I was a broker actually prior. I did residential real estate for 8 years, and then I got bored, and then brought that book of business to Metropolis. And the one thing about me that's a little different than the rest of my family is I see things in terms of like the AI. Like I have these contacts here, right? The AI tech, because I'm interested and passionate about where the industry is going to go, not from your traditional consulting standpoint, but how that experience with everything that they have there and what AI creates, how can you move together in one fluid motion to kind of support one another and use each other, right? Because the same thing, like if we get a report from Relm, the way that we QA it is we send it to our team who has the experience of over 20+ years and just say, does this look right? Is there anything that we should adjust? How do we explain this to the client in layman's terms, right? Like so that they understand. And it's becoming like a very beautiful way to move forward, and clients really are starting to appreciate it. And from a business model, if you look from now and 5, 7, 10 years from now, I think it's a really smart way for everybody to kind of start operating in their businesses too.
Definitely. And also, I like how you put this, Lilian, in terms of like we're in the second era of AI. The first one was the GPT wrappers, where people were trying to build things and inject it into an existing industry. All those GPT wrappers are dead, and I congratulate everyone here for making it through that period. We're all still doing it, absolutely. But I do think all of us have been working on this since that era. And I guess we made the right bet that it was going to come from inside the industry, implementing it, rather than an external tech company injecting technology into it. This is a very good pivot to a question for you, Kristen. Sorry, I was going to piggyback, Max, so we'll come back to you, just because of the topic at hand. That's the question I have for you specifically. You touched on this a little bit already, but this is a bit more in the weeds, so to speak. Permitting, zoning, code compliance, famously resistant to change. It deals with a lot of PDF, bureaucracy, government, human gatekeepers as part of government. Where in general, outside of the Relm partnership and everything, but in general, where is AI actually making a dent in that process today? And where is it still hitting a wall? Where's the opportunity?
Okay. All right. So AI right now, right? There's a lot of companies out there that are doing some of those like, like zoning, like you type in your address and it zooms in on the zoning and it does whatever it's got to do. And it gives you kind of like a quick summary of an analysis, which is interesting. What we use some of that, not all of it. But the reason we use some of it is because it does have some data out there that's quick for us to just like snatch real quick and then go further into what we do. The thing that always fascinates me is that yes, the information may be correct, but the AI and the tech doesn't have the experience, like what I said before. And then our technical team will go in and say, yes, this is accurate, but it also didn't consider all of these other scenarios. So we're able to break down those scenarios. So I think almost in the zoning aspect, like the AI needs to go 1 or 2 steps deeper than it's currently going, because it can give you the overall picture, but it's never going to give you exactly what you need unless you work with a company like ours, which is exactly why we exist. What did you guys say something?
I was doing a double click in there. So there's the part, you talked a lot about human in the loop.
Yeah.
AI does something and you have an expert witness, so to speak, to come in and kind of review it. Mm-hmm. Do you think part of it to not just making the AI go deeper, but then also that learning curve of trading those true experts who've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years on how to properly integrate with the AI backend, so to speak, to, pardon the pun, expedite the review process? Is that a part of it?
Yeah. And it's, I mean, Kristen Burtis is sitting here too. We're in the same space. She owns BCG Consulting. And she's more on the government side of things. So actually you should probably be a better job at the government piece, but even people who have been in our industry for 10, 20 years are still learning the ins and outs of the city and how we operate and what's approvable and what's not. We sent something in the other day on a project that was like an easy approval. Like, no, we shouldn't have any objections. And then depending on like who the examiner is and who's do the inspection, they're like, then we interpreted this differently. So this is your objection. You have to go back and make the architect do X, Y, and Z because it doesn't coincide with the zone of the district and blah, blah, blah. And it went on and on and on. And we almost then become attorneys in a way where we like defend our decision and defend our client, right? Because it is so much like interpretation and where you're going with it in the city. And now we've grown more national, and the rest of the country uses the IBC code, the International Building Code, while New York is very focused on, you know, our ever-changing laws in the coding zone area. So we are slower to adopt for sure for the AI segment of things. And I think that's just a lot, we have a lot of holes to kind of get through before we can really get there with, I think, like the governance stuff too, right?
Well, we're just in the beginning of the second era of AI, so we got time.
Yeah, cigars here, don't worry. I'm getting there.
Praying for zone 3.
Yeah, so 3.
Cool, let's over to Max, and then we'll get some QA from the audience. If you have any questions, start thinking about them now, and we'll pass over the mic in just like 2-3 minutes after I have a question from Max over here. So, Juunoo builds physical things. That is something no one else up here can really say. The Metropolis is a little bit closer. You get to actually see the thing get built. That puts you in an interesting intersection with what we're talking about, where decisions being made in software do eventually have to become walls at some point. How is AI, if it is at all, changing what clients are asking for before they even come to you?
Yeah, so it's very interesting to hear because I had the feeling there is a real impact in the pre-construction, to say it like this. While for us, we're in the construction itself, and yes, there will be a certain impact, but the building, the physical labor will not suddenly speed up thanks to AI. A couple of big changes we're seeing, quite ironic, but thanks to AI, those startups people go back to the office. There is not like a playbook for people having a company in AI, how to start this company. They really have to learn from each other. So a lot of our new clients are small AI companies that go back to a physical space. While in the past we were seeing all the tech players were working from home, the new AI companies are really going back to the office. So that's the first interesting thing we noticed. Secondly, because of the change, because of the uncertainty, they also sign much shorter lease terms. I think it was a study of JLL that was saying that AI startups are on average between 2 and 3 years signing new lease terms. So they ask way more flexibility compared to the traditional players. And a couple of our clients within the AI space, when we build out their space, almost 6 months later, because somehow their invention suddenly grows faster, they already change space again. So for us, it's an interesting hype to position ourselves with modularity, because there's so much uncertainty what is coming. So if you have that flexibility, it's a key component for those companies. So even within AI and a physical product, there is an opportunity for us as well to grow in that space.
It's amazing. That does really actually play in with, I think, everything everyone else was saying, that it seems like the theme that's emerging here is human in the loop. Not only with building AI systems and having a human QA them or present the information or double check, but you're seeing it on the actual like physical space side. The AI companies that are doing that successfully, that have survived the first GPT wrapper apocalypse, they're desiring to be in person. So not only are they QAing, the AI's work, but they're QAing each other in more real time. The decision curve gets shrunk so that things can actually work more efficiently. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So, two things. One, I think we talked about maybe should wait until we're up here talking about it, but I know we were chatting a little bit before the panel here. And two things is, one of the things that I'm curious about, I'm unsure the certainty of it actually happening, is how AI can basically bleed into more of the built world, more of the construction, post-acquisitions, and you've got redev, review dev, a building. And one of the things that I found very fascinating was Jack and I were actually in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh last year for the Seascape conference, which is one of the larger, ones after, say, 100,000 people. And one of the people that ended up winning a massive contract with Reiter, which is the co-owned family business, basically doing most of the development out there, was actually autonomous construction vehicles, leveraging a lot of this technology. And, it might be really good and more around the hype of trying to get their Project 2030, or Vision 2030, excuse me, off the ground and being able to say, hey, we're looking at what we're using on our construction sites. It's great. But I do doubt the feasibility of it in actual practicing a more legacy city like New York, where, the pipes under the ground has its own maps, and it's, over a decade, over 100 years old. And, good luck trying to, be able to figure that out. So I'm curious what your thought is on where we are today on the technology and what the lag time is between robotics catching up to be able to service down the funnel post-acquisition phase.
Yeah.
Install our role as moderator.
Sorry, I'm curious. So it's a discussion we have internally at the company as well, because all of the products and in a test environment, it can go so fast to install. It's one of our wall systems. It just clicks together. But then you have indeed the reality of like New York, where you have pipes, HVAC, the floor that is quite crooked. So in theory, in a test environment or a perfect building, I believe there's opportunity, but more than 80% is still the reality, and it will take a very long time before it will be integrated.
Cool.
So I think at the end of the day, same thing. It's AI is just what does the job, right? If you don't have enough data to back it up, then you can't really do much, because in real life, it's not as clean as in theory. And there's all these, what you call it, edge cases. In like when we're working on things, edge cases are basically things that your program hasn't been taught to do yet. And we bond over this, which is we're just constantly solving edge cases. And you can think about it as having a junior employee who may be really smart and very good at doing things, but they just haven't seen enough yet. So we're teaching machine experience. And physical data is one of the hardest things to do. So either you have robotics, so you combine hardware, like for example, Tesla, and Tesla is using hardware to gather data, or there's recently I've been marketed, a startup will come to your house and clean your house for free. If they wear a cellular and a camera, and they'll train that. So physical data is very, very hard to get. Anything that is private, so any transactional data, that never goes onto the public web. That's really hard to get. But anything else that is already on the web, to be honest, there is no competitive advantage. You can just use a GPT and Anthropic Claude. You'll be able to do all these things. In my opinion, a lot of those software are going to die as well because they don't have the competitive data advantage.
I think that's a really good point to pivot to some Q&A on, because I had 2 or 3 conversations separately before we started here with people who were talking about specifically that in real estate, that first party data. How do we use the data that we have in our firm as a, whatever it was, say it's a brokerage or a development firm, how do we leverage that into AI without sharing it out to everyone else? Again, I had 2 or 3 of those conversations, so I'm sure that there's some questions out here. If I can, actually, I'll just handle this.
Yeah. That's right. We were talking about just bringing it up. So my company actually works on doing that, which is we work more in the real estate on the contract side, which is very complicated. But the challenge is we're seeing companies putting their contracts into Claude. You shouldn't do that. It elucidates the information automatically every time it's not covered. And so part of what I think has to happen, that's where we've really focused, is creating a semantic AI guard layer. So you put all your data in, and 75% of most companies' data is unstructured. So that's the challenge. We actually take all kind of structured data, we put this the same layer, and then you can use it as your own personal sort of like ChatGPT or Claude. But we actually govern it, so before you send it to Claude, it's actually accurate. Then before Claude comes back, you make sure that it's governed all the way through. So like if you don't complicate a lease contract, like details map, like the terms and all that, and so we validate that, and then talk about human on the loop. What we then do is, if there's things we can't answer from that, they would call them out as NA, and we like highlight those. And so that's the important part. I think the data is so critical, but I would just caution anybody that's putting contracts and sort of company public private information into Claude or one of those LLMs. I think it's a dangerous thing. And so you could see that as a bigger topic, especially as it relates to contract side of things.
Sure. Jack, I can say something on that real quick.
Sure, please.
Because we do take some confidential data, dynamics and inputs that basically take off the diligence process. And it's not an infrequent. I mean, when you said you're putting contracts now, it's more adaptation of your fund, but it's one of the bigger data security things, and just more client demand. It's on-prem services, self-hosting, things like that. Even if it's in some specialized bucket that's dedicated to that particular client. So it's definitely a trend that I'm sure we're all pretty much seeing across the board to handle the more sensitive information going into these models, and not just putting it out into the ether for it to be added to the traded data set.
Exactly, and the accuracy.
And the accuracy as well, right?
So I'll talk about the accuracy. That what I'm very much into, because with financial models, I have a lot of people come to me before and say, well, why can't I just build financial model Claude? Well, first of all, have you tried? Because once you've tried, you realize that it doesn't always do exactly what you wanted. And unless you know financial modeling really well, you can't just completely hand it off to an AI to do your job, right? So here's what an insider like myself will tell you. AI is not always the right technology for everything. And the reason that people sometimes build AI softwares is not because it's the best technology, but it's because the best at raising investor money. That's what VCs want. And that's the truth, right? A lot of people have all these AI use cases on things that should not have been AI to begin with. And the way that I look at this problem is the best solutions usually have a hybrid of AI and deterministic, which is code-based workflows. So AI, what is it very good at? AI is very good at ingesting very large amounts of unstructured data. It is very good at processing speed. It is very good at creative problem solving for edge cases that you may not have programmed yet, but it's reasonable enough that it can extrapolate how to do these things. What is very good for deterministic workflow is anything that needs to be accurate, right? So your combination of here's the document, let's feed it in there. Let's get it abstracted first time in AI, have the human approve it, and then once that the human has approved it, you store it deterministically, and then you run the workflow deterministically. That's how you get accuracy.
It's fantastic. Questions from the audience? Let's any hands to ask the panelists here. Go once. Go to it. There you go. Great. Come along, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been really thoughtful. I'm more curious about the property management side of commercial real estate. I don't know if you guys can speak to, post-construction when you think about large tenant landlord models, where efficiencies can be gained, where, humans can be eliminated, and, because a lot of this can't be deterministic, but a lot of it is also just how do you predict which well is going to fail, or figure out where predictive like rent quotes to your tenants, etc. Sorry, kind of a hodgepodge question.
No, it's great. I think that probably everybody up here has something to say about it, right? But one of the things that we offer around as a part of the diligence package for property managers, owners, they basically be on a portfolio is what we call our portfolio health check. And we actually work very close to Metropolis on this, where we'll go really deep, as deep as we would go for like a regular Relm report, try to figure out what all the problems are with the building. And we'll do that for every single asset within a portfolio, and then synthesize the data against what the fund thesis is. So we'll basically make a couple of recommendations around them. One will be, hey, these are core solid properties. These properties need to be underwritten, and these ones definitely just like we got to offload these. They got so many problems. They don't fit your thesis. They got permits and violation issues up the wazoo, and you might as well sell the hair on the building. And we'll bring in Metropolis to remedy about those issues. So from a narrative building perspective, and being able to understand what you own, and being able to understand how your actual assets are positioned in the market, I think there's a very unique opportunity on that. Now, obviously Lilian started from the more numbers perspective on how you can probably optimize the portfolio and do all that, but from just a pure like how does this thing interact with the real world, with government, and what are the real problems with it, there's a very unique opportunity to synthesize a lot of that data to be able to get a position.
Property management companies, right? Notoriously for just like their reputation is just that they suck, right? That's just like what they are. And listen, I own a couple properties myself. I have a property management company. They're fine, right? If there's like a tenant issue, they help with the things, like I use them for that. My properties are very small, right? But what property management companies don't understand, I think, majority of them, is that they don't understand that one violation or one open application, depending on what it is, can tank an investment. Because it's not just about dismissing the violation, paying the fee, and walking away. Sometimes it can be related directly to your certificate of occupancy, and you have to do a ton of work where you have to like completely make a stairwell and, you know, code compliant because you want to touch a plumbing system and move it from the left to the right. There's so much that goes into it. And property management companies don't understand that. And then they'll come back to you and they say, well, we have our compliance team. Our compliance team is going to give us the list of violations. Fine, they could do that. They'll give you the list of violations. They have no idea what the violations are or what they mean. Or if those violations are accruing daily for those like fees. Because listen, the city fees that get slapped on these violations, we can't help you with them, right? Metropolis, it's like there's a 75-day window for us to maybe be able to decrease them. But otherwise, like what you owe the city is what you owe the city. I had a client once come to me. He was trying to sell, as a broker, he was trying to sell a 7-unit building in Queens. It was a couple, and the husband really was the one who took care of the building more, but he unfortunately was just deteriorating mentally, so the wife had taken it over. She wanted to sell it. There were 397 violations on that property. They owed the city 400 grand. And they came to me to see if they could fix the violations, which is fine. But then our proposal added like more than 100 grand onto that number. And then that was before they could even do the contractor. That was before you got the architect involved. So with property management companies, especially in the city, if you're going to own one, you need to be savvy when it comes to the city and what exactly like you are managing, because it can really not be helpful for your owner.
In brief, I don't want to get too in the weeds on the compliance side, but do you think that's where, going off that question before, AI could work very well in, this is a free idea for anyone that's trying to build out a property management tech company, do kind of like ongoing monitoring, because it is very good at ingesting large amounts of unstructured data over time. Is that a good use case, Ethan? In short?
In short, to a degree. And because there are some things like that that already exist that'll hit your email and just say you got a new violation from like yesterday. And then they have that, but they will have to do it afterwards. Enter me.
That's where you guys come in.
Yes.
Cool.
So what happened?
With the home. So they asked it. Sorry. They asked if they. It was really sad, and I hated doing this. But they asked if they could pay everybody after the sale, but nobody agreed to it because they didn't know if they could. So they just basically needed a cash buyer who was willing to take their own property, and so it just became a very small buyer pool, which happens.
Real quick, another example that just about to go through trauma stories about stealing stuff and work on. I know it is very good, but you know, particularly around when you buy a building, the C of O process, all that, which is an extremely complicated process, especially in the city. You know, we've ran into situations and where it's been the wrong C of O, where it was a C of O certificate of occupancy for a 2-building dwelling. This is a real example. Is it Bronx or Queens? Queens. And a C of O for two buildings, and the person built seven building, like 7-unit building. And I just did that. We just did a reporting on that a couple of weeks ago, and I am scared to follow up and figure out what they have to do to figure that out. Right? It's a big pain to work on. So from a perspective of where, you know, it's good to use AI to be able to find that type of information, but where you need the expert to step in the room and say, you know, kind of like the adult that knows everybody is step in and say, hey, this is what we need to, this is the plan to fix it. These are the people we need to go to. These are the relationships we need to have, and we're going to be able to solve this. And that's where it really comes in, beyond just the opportunity of tech, to actually have that be more of a marriage type of relationship.
And that's the thing. Everything is solvable. It's just you're not always going to love the answer. And sometimes we're just the bearer of bad news. But
That's a nice way to wrap that up. A nice way to. So I've heard a couple of key things here. One, we talked about the new era of AI being depth over breadth. That's kind of you can go deeper on a problem now. We talked about being able to get ahead of the decision curve in terms of finding problems before they arise, or even at least, the very least, very early after they do. Having AI help in some creative problem solving with how to mitigate those. And the biggest thing is human in the loop. Real estate is very clearly a relationship business. It's about the deal. It's about the handshake. It's about the deal, in short. AI is just there to make all those deals go more smoothly. And any product that does anything other than that, I think is likely not going to win. That's my 2 cents, my answer to the question that I asked. I do have one kind of lightning round for the panel here. Before we do that one, any final questions from the audience? Anything that kind of came up there? Just want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody out. Oh, someone Canada behind the set. All right, cool. Go over here first.
A little bit of a deviation, but I'm wondering if you've heard of any interesting discourse or use cases for AI sustainability and the intersection of commercial real estate.
Actually, I think it's the first one.
Max, you got this.
No, then there's a couple of companies that I'm aware of that are really looking in terms of construction to have a lot of modeling involved in construction. Okay, what happens in terms of sustainability if you change this component of the building, if you turn that part, if you change that window. So it's, I don't know if it's really AI, but it's more the modeling, which can go way faster with AI. That's something within sustainability and new buildings or existing buildings that we see a big trend. So I can give you some more information after that. And I just have one question for all of you as well, because you're saying humans in the loop are important, but if I hear AI is a very strong and very fast junior person that is doing it on steroids, but what do you think is the role of the junior? Because AI is taking that over. You still need the experts to look at the data, but if you don't train the junior anymore, what do you think is the role for the junior in these positions?
That's the many, many millions of jobs question.
Yeah, so I'm going to lean forward on this one. Work that one. But it's, because I've had a lot of conversations, just, based on what we're doing. It's a lot of what the analyst or the more junior role would actually end up together for doing. And it's a scary positioning to kind of be where some people are definitely going to become obsolete. I hate to, to kind of go against the trend that, you use AI, you're going to win. If you don't, you're going to lose. That's probably true, but it's also going to replace people regardless. And where I think the role of the more junior folks on the team is going to be repositioned. And this isn't something that I'm endorsing or saying like, hey, this is a good thing for society, but it's a reality of the situation where I'm finding something is a lot of the folks that are kind of there for a job, those are going to go to the wayside. And the people that they basically want to put, if you're, let's say, at an investment bank, want to put on a partner track, or a law firm, they want to put on a partner track, or they see you as being able to grow into the company, you're definitely going to have a position. And your position is going to be QA the AI, learn the ropes, and then figure out how to move up in the ecosystem. Because, a lot of these people, and particularly like insurance, is an aging industry. Construction, real estate, a lot of the subcategories there is an aging industry. And we're going to need junior people to basically figure out and have to actually do the senior jobs to keep everything moving. So that means they're going to be optimizing for those people in those junior positions that can actually grow. And, everybody else, it's going to be, well, I just leave it there. It's a little tough, but it's,
I'm definitely an eternal optimist on these things. And I think everyone, the pessimistic side is that AI is going to be Thanos snapping his fingers, deleting half the jobs. But it turns out it sounds like it's going to be more of the sorting hat of Hogwarts, just putting people into better roles. They're better suited. That's my bare idea here. There was one question back here. Kirsten.
Can I add something that it's your first?
Please, as I'm walking over here.
So, a lot of people have asked me if you're building this software where anyone can just build financial models without any modeling experience, how many analysts are you going to replace? And I get that a lot. First of all, look at the real estate landscape, right? It's very different from tech. And I'm from Silicon Valley. And in Silicon Valley, they had a way of doing things and getting technology into the industry. That approach is very different in tech versus in real estate. Why is it different? In tech, you have a few large players. these large players, once you have signed up the few big ones, you're set. You have become a unicorn. You're making lots of money. In commercial real estate, this is very different. If you think about it as a pyramid, right? The tech pyramid is much more concentrated, whereas commercial real estate industry is much more spread out. So then my response to that is most developers or brokers or real estate teams in the country don't even have an MLS, right? We've been staying in New York for so long that we lost track of all the local operators who are not hiring these people to begin with. And what you're really doing, and what I hope to do, is just take these resources that are typically only available to the people who can afford it and just make it more available, right? Very simple. Now, the question is, what about the firms that have analysts? Well, first of all, the question is your analyst good or is your analyst bad? If your analyst is bad, there's nothing I can there's nothing that I can do for you. Now, the second thing is, what I've also come to realize is when you are a firm that is getting to a point where you actually need your internal analyst, a lot of times you're doing deals that are approaching the $100 million mark, right? So at this point, the deals have become so complex and so nuanced that you really need to have a human to be able to do all these jobs. And it's not the job of AI to be able to do these. And what I'd also realized on the consumer side is when you have a company with an analyst, why would you pay extra money for tech when you can just get your analyst to work more? At least this is what we're hearing from people, right? So you already paid for it. They're smart. They can solve these one-off problems. It's not the same niche as what AI is designed to solve.
Cool. We're going to do 2 more quick questions. I want to make sure we get back to the networking part of this. Fantastic answer, though. So 2 more. I think we have one back here. And if anybody else has another one, put your hand up after this one.
So my question was almost answered fully, but I'll still ask a different version. So for example, when you have worked with companies in the past, how successful has only using the AI been compared to using a human and just basic financial modeling? And when you told me that, and you told everyone here that even though AI would be implemented, it wouldn't mean massive layoffs because usually the small companies, they don't even have underwriters, right? But when it comes to the bigger companies, have you seen any, maybe not major layoffs, but like decent number of layoffs within the commercial real estate firms just because AI has become a player when it comes to underwriting? Yeah.
From what I understand, no. Sometimes I feel like I'm put in a difficult position where I have to defend the value of what I'm building. And so friends will believe me, right? Because if I tell them, oh, Claude can't do what I do, they're going to say, well, I'm going to try and I'm going to do these things. And look what I can accomplish when Claude and Excel and all these things. And I'll tell you about Claude and Excel is very good at searching things. It's very good at data entry when you already have the format set up. It's very good at parsing a document and filling out a blank template that you already have. But there's a difference between doing the job and being the person responsible for the job. We talked about this at Relm's launch as well, which is people are saying, well, you can never replace the experts because they have the industry. No, actually, you can replace the experts. But you cannot replace somebody being the base of things when things go wrong, right? So we got to think about our job as human as a little bit more nuanced than just clogs in the machine getting the job done. We need to be the one who is making sure that everything works. And especially the larger the company, the larger the deal, the larger the risk of things going wrong. So currently, no, I don't think so. And also the judgment in an analyst, in my opinion, is far more important than just putting numbers into an Excel. And as an analyst, I hated that. It took me 9 months to become proficient at doing Excel. And if I could go back, I would rather work on something that is deal related and beating people at understanding the market rather than doing Excel.
Cool. Ivan, I think you said you had something else.
That's fine.
I just back to this. So we just did a pilot with one of the largest global real estate companies, and so our whole goal is to reduce the time it takes building these contract centers. So we took a process that took 10 to 12 human hours. They loaded a 400-page document in under 10 minutes. We actually hit the 90. Great. There's a scheme when we hit the 95 points of the contract under 10 to 12 minutes. He says, "Oh wow, I have 2,000 people doing this. I guess I don't need 1,000 of those." And so, like, I agree with the panel when it comes to the P, but I think it's going to sugar. I think it's going to need less as a percentage, but the human component is essential. So yeah, we just see more and more efficiencies like that, and we do a lot in Friday credit as well, and we've seen that as well. So if a company's going to hire like hypothetically 1,000, entry level analysts, it may do 250 and 5. So I think you just see a reduction in that. But to your point, right? Ultimately, those people will be doing maybe high value human kind of stuff. I think there's certain road sort of things that happen that'll just be super replaced.
Definitely. If you want to grab that back.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah.
So here's what I'll say is your A players are going to be worth 10 times more, and your B and C players are going to be replaceable. And there's no other way to do it. If you want to be AI proof, you need to be good at your job.
It's a good place to leave it.
I have a quick question.
Go for it, please.
Yeah. No, I know. But this will be the last, I promise. So it's because we talk a lot about like the actual software component of it and like what the capabilities are. One of the things I'm very interested in is the secondary and tertiary effects on the actual real estate market itself, right? So you're basically sitting there, I'm curious, like based off the funding volume, based off of who's getting what, new spaces. I just read something in the news this morning from the real deal that real estate commercial office space market is at its highest since 2000. I'm just kind of curious what you guys are seeing on that front. Obviously, there's a lot of secondary, tertiary coming from the data center stuff, but I'm curious what it's actually doing from the markets that you have the visibility into.
So it's always nice that the data shows what's happening, but for us, it's last year was a very uncertain period, and if I look back at our clients, I think we had maybe one or two where the company name had AI in it, and I think this year we already have more than 15 clients where just AI is in the company name. So of course there is more than AI companies taking on spaces, but as a startup, a scale-up, you're often in the same space, and we are really focused not on the big build outs that take 1 or 2 years. We really focused like, let's be office space, you enter and you want to work tomorrow, so you need to space fast build outs. So that's for us a very interesting part of the markets. And trophy buildings, class A buildings, no issue, but the class B, we start to feel there's quite some traction. Even for us, like we have a showroom here at Juunoo Square, and it's still affordable for us to go for it. So those spaces, 4,000 or 5,000 square feet, they're going fast, and there's definitely a sweet spot.
And speaking from I dig into some of this data too, just in my free time because I have no hobbies. On the this is happening on the residential side too. Over the last 15, 20 years, pretty much almost linearly on the residential multifamily side, renters are moving more frequently, even from the apartments. It used to be rent an apartment, stay there for an average of 3 to 5. Now it's 1 or 2. And as a result of that, rental increases are incrementalizing more and more frequently. As a result of that, multifamily buildings are changing hands more frequently in some markets. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance there, but it seems like things are just happening quicker as a result of all this. Yeah. But Evan and I, we were co-founders again, and we started as college roommates, and we've lived in, over the last years when we were starting the company, we lived in 4 different apartments together over the 4 years we were living together. Don't recommend that. That's not what you want to do. But cool. So just to keep things going, I want to make sure we can get back to one question back there. Yeah, let's do a rapid fire here a little bit.
Yeah, that's a quick one. So
EVL.
if AI makes a mistake at a construction site and says like something which shouldn't be done, or during, for example, design, that something is compliant but it's not, what's the best way to approach the liability for that mistake?
just to reiterate your question, if AI gets something wrong at a point of decision, let's say on a job site, how do you actually mitigate that problem? Am I asking that correctly?
Takes their responsibility.
Who takes the responsibility? I think that goes back to what, maybe I can take a stab at this. I think it goes back to what Kristen and Lilian were saying in the way of there always has to be a face, someone to take both QA the AI output, and then if there is a mistake, it's then back on that person or a third party as a human to, if it's your job to ensure that the AI is doing its job right, perhaps you're the person to quote unquote take the fall, or at least be responsible for mitigating a problem that does arise. I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that.
Call Ken.
Yeah, we're called Kenneth here. He's the guy that fixes things.
Maybe he disputes all that stuff, so.
He does a damn good job.
Ken will learn.
We'll have to do a second panel. I love Ken up here telling horror stories that he's seen and fix. Cool. So the final question, I want this to be a rapid fire. I'm going to give you each 15 seconds, 1 or 2 sentences to answer. We'll go straight down the line, and then we'll get back to networking. The rest of the night, we're going to be hanging out after this, food, drinks, and all that. Final question. Lilian's locked in for the...
Do we get the same question?
Everyone gets the exact same question. Imagine it's 2027, 12 months from today. What is the one thing in real estate that is majorly different because of AI compared to today?
Oh, you know what? I think this one is actually going to be a little bit unexpected. It's more people are going to be disillusioned by AI. More people are going to get burned. More people are going to have contractors that sold them a one-time solution and refuse to go and continue to maintain their edge cases. More people are going to have a more balanced view of what AI can actually do for them and not do for them. They're going to stop expecting all the tech companies to turn them into someone they're not. These are some of the complaints that we've had inside, when we talk to other founders is, my client wants me to build these things and solve all of their problems. And some people are going to say yes, and they get the contract. But I think very soon, in a year's time, people are going to have a much more balanced view in what AI can do for them and what they can't.
Well, Kristen?
Yeah, I was going to say there's going to be a much clearer vision as to what AI is going to do for companies. And I think there's going to be companies that are going to, the AI companies in general that will spearhead ahead of people because they have a very clear solution and work directly with the firms that are using them. And then the others will fade away.
Fantastic. Evan?
Yeah, so we go a little bit more optimistic on it, and I think, Kristen a lot, but I think we're going to start seeing the beginnings of ecosystem companies in the space, people that are able to own an entire portion of a funnel, and you're able to basically go end to end, whatever that phase is with that one company, and so it'll be a much more streamlined process. Hopefully it's around, but we'll see what the going from there.
Max?
And I will end the most positive. We're gonna have an amazing work-life balance because the ages are gonna help us. So we're gonna stop at 5, enjoy the weather. So life's gonna be amazing.
Very European answer, right here.
Siesta wasn't enough.
This has been great, guys. You're all very good friends of mine. One of you is even my co-founder. But thank you guys all for coming and listening to us opine about commercial real estate and AI. I very much look forward to the conversations we have after this. I hope this sparked some thoughts that you guys had someone on your way in that you want to go continue a conversation with after this. We're going to be here for another hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. There is drinks, there's beer, wine. We have wonderful food back there, including dessert, on behalf of Metropolis. And again, to thank Juunoo for providing the space. And I would like to thank, most importantly, all you guys for attending. So give it up for you guys.